stand up together.
Thank you, Diana. Diana was my boss in college. I was an RA for 3 years, and she was my head resident and my absolute favorite boss of my life. And so when the week before we formed the board for SowHope, I was having dinner with her and her husband by chance in Chicago, and I was telling them about SowHope, and they both started crying. And I thought, well, maybe this is a good sign. And I said, would you guys like to be on the board? Because we have a couples board. We have one member, and the spouse can come to the board meeting and give input. We only have one voting member, but when her husband, Tom, longtime friend, leaned over and kissed me on the head, I knew I had him. And when we had our first meeting, January 30th, Diana wasn't able to come, so we had a conference call with Diana and another college friend of mine came over, who's a doctor, who's lives in Milwaukee, and she travels around the world doing medical care a lot. She does a lot of charity work. And they were both on the phone in the meeting. And when it came time to vote for the president, chairman of the board, we got the secretary pretty easily, and the vice president pretty easily, and the treasurer had already come to the meeting knowing they were going to sign up. And when it got to asking for who wants to be the chairman, it was kind of quiet, and Diana says over the phone, what's going on over there? I can't hear anything. And I said, well, nobody's jumping up and down for that. And she said, well, I'll do it. And I realized my favorite boss has just become my favorite boss again. So I am thrilled to have Diana. She's an exceptional person, doctor of education, and the vice president of a college. Well, for those of you that don't know me, I'll just give you a brief history. My name is Dailey Brown. And in case you can't see me, then somebody must be sitting in my line. This is a photograph that was taken in Egypt by a very good friend of mine, Marie Clark. And she's a great photographer. And if you go to my website, you'll be able to get right to her website. She lives here in town. We had a wonderful time there. And I just want to kind of give you a little bit of history about how SowHope came into being, and I'll go back and tell you a little bit about my life. I grew up on a farm, family of 5 kids, dairy farm, a Catholic family. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, and went on to university to study photography. It was my life passion. I wanted to be a National Geographic photographer, and in college, I had an amazing encounter with God. My sophomore year, I knew that I had been searching for the meaning of life. I was not only majoring in photography, I was majoring in psychology, I majored in world religions and philosophy, trying to find out why am I here. And in my sophomore year in college, some friends explained to me about the love of God, and I understood that I was made to live for God. And when I understood that, my whole life changed. And I had had a lot of success up to that point in my life, but my life took on incredible meaning at that point. And I really never looked back from that day. I've always been thankful to God for what He's done in my life, for saving me and for giving me a purpose and eternity, really. And so I left college. I finished up. I crammed 4 years into 5. Couldn't afford those photography classes in 4 years. And then I went, my first job out of college, I went to the White House as a photographer for the President of the United States. And it was exciting times. They asked me, I went for a summer internship, and they asked me to stay on full-time, which I did. But I quit after the inauguration. I wanted to leave in September, and I left in January, the following January, to go to Bible school. And it was at Bible school where I met my husband, Doug. And we got married. We met and married in 5 months. And this August will be 25 years. So it can work. It just happens that I happen to marry the greatest guy in the world. So if you can find the greatest guy in the world, just begin to marry him. We went and lived in Spain for 4 years, and our son Alex was born there. Alex is here today. He's also bartending He works for this company, and he has gotten us this room at an incredibly reduced rate. So just want to thank Alex. He's the really cute one. You'll see him later. He's also offered to give us tips to SowHope, so be generous. We left Spain when he was a little baby and went and lived in north suburbs of Chicago. And I opened up a photography business there. My husband got interested. He was finishing his degree, and he got interested in computers and opened up a computer consulting company. Actually, back then he was actually building computers before Dell and Gateway. We were actually competitors with them, but we weren't willing to take the risks that Michael Dell was. So he's now consulting, doing networking, and we got very involved in going to Mexico every year, building houses for the poor, and helping to lead our church into helping the poor. At the same time, I was offered a position to start an organization called Loving. It's an organization that combines the social agencies and the churches together to help the working poor in the community. And I was coaching basketball, and I was helping to lead the youth group at the church. And I also had another business. I was teaching Spanish. And at one point, Doug said to me, "It looks like you're really busy, Mary." And I was coaching basketball. I said, "Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of, living about 5 lives." And my to-do list had 8 sections on it. And he said, "Why don't you just pick something you like and go do that?" And I said, "Well, I like everything I'm doing." And he said, "Well, write down 10 things that you like the most in your life, and let's look at those that you felt most successful about." And after looking at that list, he said, "I think you should either work with youth or in missions." And I said, "That's funny, because those are the 2 areas I'm not getting paid for." Well, I did find a job in missions right here in Rockford, Michigan. There was a director of missions job open about 8 years ago, and I applied for it, and we moved here to Michigan. And after we moved here, or about 2 days before we moved here, we found out about our son John. And John's here. John, raise your hand. Where are you? Over there. He's a good-looking guy in the back there. He came and lived with us. He was 14. He came from Brazil. And he's been with us and been a great blessing. So Alex is my firstborn. John is my oldest. Well, as I traveled around the world to the third world countries, I began to see things that really surprised me. And I'm going to show you a picture of some of the stuff. One of the things that really depicts what I saw. We live in a world that looks like this. When you go to South Asia, or China, or Africa, this is very much the life of women. And on one of my trips from Nepal to India, we drove, a good friend of mine and I drove across from Nepal to New Delhi. It was an 18-hour drive. We were stunned at how we would drive into a village, and there would be a lot of men sitting around, playing games, laying around, lounging around. The village would be full of men, and you wouldn't see any women at all. And then you would pull out of the village, and then, oh, there they were, in the fields. Oh, there they were, at the river, washing clothes. Oh, there they were, with big, heavy loads on their heads. And this picture repeated itself in many countries that I went to. And probably about 4 years ago, I realized that this is really a plight. The women of the third world live incredibly oppressed lives. They earn less than $1 a day average, and they contract AIDS in ways that are not right. It's been estimated that 80% of African women who have AIDS contracted that disease through an encounter, sexual encounter that they did not consent to. Women are 80% of the farmers of the world. I just read 2 weeks ago in a magazine that in a new textbook in India, the statement was written that women can be compared to donkeys. Oh, except that donkeys are a shade better because you never find them disobeying their masters. That's a new textbook in India. And we in the West really we live in a world that the rights of women have been been championing for years. And it's really an amazing thing to see women who don't have a voice, who are generally very illiterate. 80% of the women of India are illiterate. 1/6 of the world lives in India. Over 1 billion people live in India. 80% of the women are illiterate there. They're tricked into doing things that you and I would never do. Their child might get sick, and to pay the doctor bill, they go to the local money lender who has them sign a paper that says they'll pay back at exorbitant rates, but the contract actually says that their child, or their husband, or them, are going to be indentured servants the rest of their lives and will never be able to pay the money back. Offering literacy classes opens up the door for women to be able to read contracts. And so, after seeing this kind of image over and over again, I got to the point where I realized I need to do something for the women. And I thought to myself, well, I'll go to work for a place that helps women. And I had an idea that I wanted to start something, but I thought, well, I don't how do you do that? I don't really know how to do that. Well, I went online to look for a job at an organization that helps women exclusively, and what I thought in a way that I thought was necessary, meeting basic needs. And I could not find an organization like that. Then I thought, man, I really need to do this then. And I realized, I felt really that God was asking me to do that, and I thought it was a kind of a ridiculous thing, and I even said to God, you know, hey, that's a great idea, you should get someone to do that. And then when I found out no one was doing it, I said, oh, you'll take anybody at this point. And I know I'm better than nobody. So it gave me confidence to move forward and to try to do this. So in January, we started SowHope. It's a nonprofit, international charitable organization dedicated to helping women. And our vision statement is to inspire women around the world through wellness, education, and economic opportunities in the most basic way. And our target group is the sickest, most uneducated, poorest women in the world. Mostly they reside in the third world. Well, how are we to do this? What we're going to do, and we've already begun, in January we worked, and we is anybody who will help me, by the way. So it might be you too. So you can just include yourself right now if you want. And you're going to hear from Bonnie Conley, and there are many who have helped me along the way. What we want to do is find and build partner relationships that positively affect women's lives in measurable ways. We will look for and find and support local leaders using local solutions to solve local problems. If there's one thing I learned about the third world is, I don't understand it. And as an American, I probably don't have the answer for the third world. But all over the world there are people. And among those people, there are leaders. And our goal is to find the leaders who already have a heart to help these women, who are already helping them actually, that have proven that they have a passion and they care about women. And then to step alongside them and help them do their job better. So what are the areas that we're willing to support? We're going to look for, in the wellness areas, we have two areas that we'll try to raise funding for, and that is physical and emotional. Under the physical, we will support people who are providing immunizations. Immunizations are a very basic, kind of a right in our country. Just about everybody gets them, and they're available to all of us. That's not the case around the world. People die of simple diseases every day because they're not immunized. So we will help support this very basic right. immunizations. Will support the promotion of good nutrition and good hygiene. So if somebody's doing a program where they're teaching people how to eat better, how to wash their hands, how to have better hygiene to improve their health, we'll support them in this. Another thing we'll do is support projects that improve water conditions. 60% of the world does not have potable water. And one of the goals that we have is to help improve the water conditions. If somebody's helping people to drink water, more healthy water, then we want to help those people. And the last area of the physical projects is the medical services. We'll have a priority on AIDS relief because so many women are suffering from AIDS. We will help people who are helping women with this problem. And we'll also support projects, we'll put a priority on women that are helping with women's health care, childbirth, and different kinds of women's issues, gynecology and things like that. We'll work on, we'll support projects that provide counseling for gender-related issues. I don't know if you are aware of female genital mutilation, women who are circumcised at an early age, 5 to 12 years old. This process is done with a razor blade out in a field on a rock. It is absolutely horrible. Last year, 2 million girls went through this operation. Not only is it physically detrimental to a person, with 500,000 of them dying from this procedure, it has incredible psychological ramifications. We'll help people that are providing counseling to women who've been raped. There's an incredible amount of trickery going on right now. People are telling women that they can find jobs in other parts of the world. They go to those other parts of the world only to have their passports taken away and put into a prostitution ring. And they cannot escape unless someone else comes and helps them escape. One thing I've learned is that, except for a bloody revolution, the oppressed cannot rise up unless those in power share their power. And I can tell you that the women of the third world do not have the energy for a bloody revolution. They're up before dawn. They go to bed way after dusk, and they're the last one to get to eat if there's not enough food for the family. They spend all day working the fields, preparing the food, taking care of the children, doing the work. And they will not have the energy to revolt. And unless people that have resources can come and help them, they will not be helped. We'll also provide safe havens. The women will provide the support of safe havens and recovery centers for victims of rape and forced prostitution. These are growing up all over the world and in other countries where they're necessary. I heard a story. I was supposed to go to Pakistan last month. Like I said, we spent the month of January forming the corporation. We did all the paperwork, wrote the bylaws and the articles of incorporation. I just saw Janet Deach walk in, and Janet has been an incredible help in the formation of this organizationally. She helped me write the bylaws, and we took many days to write the bylaws because we really wanted to get it right. And there she is right in the back. Raise your hand, Janet. Thanks, Janet. She and her husband have been incredible help to SowHope. Kurt also did the graphic design of all of our things, and so they've been a tremendous help to SowHope. Not to mention that they'll give a lot of financial help to start us out. These safe havens we will help people that are trying to help these women. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the examples in a few minutes. Another area that we're going to try to help is educationally, and we want to help provide scholarships for higher education to young girls who are gifted academically, who could make it to university. Especially we want to help women that could be in helping professions like medical areas or teaching. We'll put a priority on them to help give them scholarships. And these scholarships, by the way, most women that could make it academically to a university, the governments will pay for them to go to the university, but they won't pay for their books or their transportation, and they won't pay for the loss of wages that that person provides for their family, which prohibits them from being able to go to the university. So we would actually even give families money to replace the money that girl could make, that less than $1 a day that she could provide so that she could go to the university if she's a gifted student. On the other end of education, we'll provide basic literacy classes for those who can't even read. Another thing we really want to do is help with leadership training and motivational speaking. And in a few minutes, I'm going to give you some examples of all these areas and how this might work. Also, our website, we would love for it to become a resource, international resource on women's issues, so that anybody that wants to find out about women's issues can go and read stories about real-life people of today and find out what's happening. We want our website to be a resource for people on women's issues. Links to other places. One thing I did find out as I did my research to try to find a job is that there are many think tanks. There are a lot of people talking about this and studying it. So we have a lot of resources that way, but we want to kind of put them all together and give you some real life stories too. Economically, we want to help support microeconomic loans. This is one of the most exciting things. As I traveled last month to these different countries, and I found out, I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. And then the last thing in microeconomic is that we want to help provide small business training. Okay, what will we do? SowHope will attempt to provide funding for outcome-based projects. What that means is that when we find a partner that we like, that we think is doing the things that we think are important for women, we'll invite them to submit an application for a project to us, and this project has to have an outcome stated in the project. For example, if somebody wants to do an immunization project, they could say, we want to give 10,000 immunizations and it costs 50 cents each. Can you send us $5,000? We can do that in 6 months. That's an outcome-based project. If there's a partner that realizes that women are responding to counseling, and they can hire 2 counselors, and over a 2-year period they could see 2,000 women and train them or have them go through a counseling session. At the end of 2 years, if they've got 2,000 women that have been counseled at a certain cost, that's an outcome. So every project has to have an outcome for us to support it. We'll not only provide funding, but we'll try to provide encouragement through biannual visits. Those are 2-year visits, every 2 years, and then invite the leaders to a regional conference. We hope to have about 5 regional areas in the world, and invite those who don't have good leadership over them to come to a conference, to be motivated themselves, to share their stories with each other, and to find some rest, and to find respite, and to be encouraged to keep going. Sometimes these leaders are out there all by themselves, and they need encouragement. So that's what we hope to get, funding and encouragement for them to keep going. By the way, all of our partners have to be known by us, or they have to be referred by someone that we know. And we really believe that will cut down on the risk of the money being lost to someone who doesn't have a relationship. It's really relationship-based, outcome-based. What will we require? We require our partners to fill out completed applications. They have to agree to our values. And the application is 2 pages long. It's a very simple application. state your outcome, state how you know us, so that they don't have to get bogged down in a lot of paperwork. I know this is very naive, and we'll keep it as 2 pages for as long as we can. Secondly, we'll ask them for accountability for the resources given. Whatever they've asked for, whatever their outcome is, at the end of the time limit, we'll judge how we'll ask them to be accountable for the resources we're given based on the outcome of their project. If they've been successful, then we'll continue to do more projects with them. Okay, well that's our website. Eventually we'll have our projects listed on there, and it'll be a source for you to understand, to be able to actually go there and give money to. And I just want to show you a couple people that. Now, January we set up the organization. February we set up the website and began planning for a trip to find partners. And in March I traveled to 5 countries to find partners. And this is one of the people that I visited. This is Dr. Nargis and her husband. He's a counselor. This is her office. It actually looked a lot better in this picture than it does in real life. Dr. Nargis works here. She works about 3 blocks from here. This is one of the 8 garbage villages of Cairo. She works in 2 of them. She works 5 days a week from 12 o'clock noon to midnight, and she sees 80 to 100 patients for $1 a person. This is exactly the kind of person that we're trying to find. Dr. Nargis is an incredibly compassionate, loving person. When you walk into her office, it's really kind of scary how basic and I don't think any of us really want to be examined there, except that she's the one examining you. Now, Dr. Nargis is a perfect example of the kind of person that we would love to partner with. She sends us a program. She's come to us through very trusted friends who know her. Not only, actually, 2 different resources knew her that I knew in Egypt, and she would be a perfect person for us to help. Help more someone the very poor. If she wrote us and said that she realized that the people there were not immunized, all women weren't immunized, she's a gynecologist and a dermatologist, and she said if she wrote to us and said I could immunize every patient I see at a certain cost, then we would put that on our website and try to raise that kind of money for her. If she said I could really use an assistant who could see this many more patients a day, how many more they could see, try to support that kind of thing. If she said to us, these women all drink water that's polluted, and we can buy water straws for $3 a piece, I could distribute them to them. I could distribute to every one of my clients, and they could drink 800 gallons of water, clean water for $3. We would consider that as a very good project to support. Education. This is kind of a long story. A few years ago, our church supported a literacy class. And it was a 2-year project to teach 400 women how to read. It cost $25,000. In the middle of the project, I asked if I could go see the project and see how it was going and verify that it was actually happening. And they said, sure, come. I went to southern India, to a village, a remote village, and on the ground they had 1 light coming into the village. Sat about 70 women. That was the end of a class, and out of the 100 that started the class, 70 finished. They were graduating that night. And we were starting a new class. So there were another 100 people that were going to be starting a new class. And by the way, when you go to these countries like this, when you show up as an American, and I was the first white person they ever saw in that village, it's kind of a funny thing. It's special for them, for somebody to come from the outside. It'd be like the president coming here, kind of. I mean, it's really wild. So you have to talk every time that you go to these places. And I can remember standing there knowing that I was going to have to talk to this group of people, this group of women sitting on the ground. And I was just kind of thinking, man, I really don't know what to say, because these people, I don't have any idea what their lives are like. And then at the last minute, you know, I felt that God gave me a good word for them. It was talking about literacy and light, and how literacy was light for them, and that a light had come into their life. And it was a good night. After I talked there, a young girl came up to me and handed me this note. Now, I'll read it to you because you can't see what it says. At the bottom it says, "To respected dear madam, I am very poor family, so please help me. My school expenditure. I am promoted to 10th grade. Thanking you, yours faithfully, E. Bishop." And I have kept that letter. I still have it. I just scanned it last night. And that letter and that girl have haunted me for 4 years. And this summer, when I was telling my cousin about maybe thinking about doing something internationally, she started asking, what would it look like? I said, I don't know what it looked like. Well, it kind of looked like, want to help them medically, want to help them. And you know what? I met this girl in India, and she wants to go to school. She doesn't have any way to get there. And I have her name and address. And my Aunt Ginny came walking by. My Aunt Ginny is a mentor of mine. She's been an incredible example to me her whole life, my whole life. And she said, what are you guys talking about? And my cousin said, well, tell her what you just told me about that girl in India. I said, well, there's a girl in India. I told her the story, and my Aunt Ginny said, Mary, if you find that girl, I will support her to go to school. And I said, oh, well, okay, Ginny. And that really was the first serious thought I had about maybe doing something like this. And my Aunt Ginny is writing me a check next month to help support this girl. And I talked to the people at Mission India, did this thing, and they said with that address, they think they can find her. So hopefully in the next month or two, we'll be able to find this girl. And hopefully her life has been in such a way that she'll be able to continue this desire to want to go to school. So education scholarships are very near and dear to my heart, and that one just came out of a girl visiting a literacy class. Another thing that I feel that's really important in education is leadership development. 5 years ago, a team from our church went to Ethiopia, and we were building a school and a guest house there. And it really wasn't appropriate for the women to work on the building part, so I said to the person working there, would you mind if we just did like a kids or a youth rally or something? The women could do that. She said, yeah, I think we could probably get some kids together. So the next day they announced it, and a big group of kids came to the church, and we probably had about 125 kids the first day. Our supplies were, we went to a store and found some colored paper and some pens. And we just kind of winged it. We read inspirational stories from the Bible. We had the kids do memory verses. We had them do draw on the paper with the pen, which was a really big deal for them. That was their craft. We did dramas together. They had never done dramas. We sang. We had about a 2-hour meeting. We did that for 4 days in a row. By the end of the 4 days, we had over 200 kids there. Well, last year I went back to Ethiopia. We had a great time with these kids. There's 2 of the kids on the left there are some of the older kids, and we just loved those kids, and they loved us, and we had a great time with them. Did a lot of singing together, and last year I went back to Ethiopia to take a gift from our church back to this place in Ethiopia, and they invited me to speak in the church. As a matter of fact, they were singing, and I was sitting next to some of the leaders, and one of the leaders leaned over and said, when this song is over, you're going to get up and preach. And I said, I said, I am? And he said, yeah. I said, what am I going to preach? And he said, whatever God gives you. And I thought, well, that's really good. Okay, great. I'm not a preacher. I don't preach. I don't have that opportunity. We're oppressed in the United States. Just kidding. But I knew that this was an opportunity for the women in that church to have a woman get up and speak, so I knew I had to do it. And so I did, and I preached for about 40 minutes. And when I got done, Another leader got up and he was kind of laughing, looking at his watch. And I said, did I not go long enough? He said, no, we usually go 2 hours here. Okay. We'll do that tonight, okay? I'll make up for it here. By the way, I need a clock, by the way. If somebody give me a watch, I don't have any idea what time it is. I know I'm on a schedule. Okay, so I go back there last year, get up and speak, and I say to them, hey, who was here last year? Does anybody have that new schedule with time on it? Okay, so I said, who was here 4 years ago at the youth rally? And I'd say about 10 or 12 kids raised their hand, maybe 15. And I said, well, I want to talk to you guys after this service is over. Let's meet in the school. After the service was over, the probably 12, a dozen young people, 18 to 22 years old, we all met in the school. And I said, hey, well, tell me what your names are and tell me what you're doing. How long can I get to go? Oh, yeah. So, what happens? There's a couple girls in there, mostly, maybe 4 girls and about 8 or 9 guys. First girl says, I'm so-and-so and I'm studying to be a doctor. Next person, I'm so-and-so and I'm studying to be a politician. Next person, I'm so-and-so and I'm studying to be a nurse. Every single one of them was studying to be something. And I turned to the translator, who was the same guy that's translating for me here. I said, Boodoo, is it normal in the Gucci land where they make less than $1 a day that people this age from one village would all be studying higher education? He said, no, this is highly unusual. So I turned back to the group and I said, well, how is it that all of you are studying? And 2 or 3 of them, this guy right down here, he stood up and he said, one of the ones got up and said, Mary, 4 years ago, you told us that we were the hope for Ethiopia, that we had to leave this country, and we believed you. That's why we're all studying. And that's why I believe in motivational speaking. Because I thought to myself, I said that? I didn't even know I said it. And here it changed all their lives. And I was so amazed at that. Well, I really believe in motivational speaking, leadership development. And so, by the way, we're looking for partners, but Americans will be able to be involved in SowHope. Eventually, as our partners have needs, we will send short-term teams to help meet the needs of our partners. One of the areas that we will be sending people probably is under leadership development. We will go and do seminars, week rallies, and encourage people, women and young people, to live better lives. And it is amazing what our words can do. We'll also be sending medical teams eventually. We'll be sending counseling teams. There's a place for people here to be involved if you have a skill. And eventually we'll be organizing to help our partners come alongside when they ask us, building teams, whatever they need, we'll go and join them, walk alongside them. Economic. This is one of my, I didn't know this, but it has become one of my favorite themes. On this trip in March, I visited Spain and Egypt and Bangladesh, and I was supposed to go to Pakistan, but I don't know if you guys heard about the cartoon thing that went on. They said, please don't come now, it's very dangerous. I went to Switzerland and visited with a group that oversees 1,200 pastors in the Third World. And they gave me lots of contacts, and we built a partnership with them, and they're going to match our funds as we raise funding. Well, they sent me to a place in Bangladesh, and it's a microeconomic loan organization. And this is what it looks like. Women can join a microloan club, and this organization only gives money to women. And what they found in the Third World is that if you give money to a mother, especially, they will take that money once they have the courage to take it, because most women in these countries have never held money, let alone spent it, or ever made any decision about money. What they find out is that if you give money to a woman who has children, they'll take that money and they will use it to better their lives and their children's lives, and consequently the society's like. If you give that same money to their husband, they tend to think that they're more important to begin to spend the money on themselves, and they don't even take care of their families. So anybody who has money that wants to lend it would never, it's not a good credit risk to lend to men. But it's a very good credit risk to lend to women, especially mothers, especially widows. So these women have qualified to join this club, and what happens is this club, all these women live within about a half a mile of each other. They join the club, they get they qualify. If they can get in the club, and if they qualify to be in the club, they have to be a certain age, and they have to own a little bit. They're with their husbands. Their husbands have to sign over the land to them. By the way, that reminds me. How much of the world's land do you think is owned by women in the world? How much percentage of the world's land? Anybody want to take a guess? 5%?
Less than 1%.
Oh, you already knew.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. He's on the board, that's why. Less than 1% of the land in the world is owned by women. So in order for these women to qualify, their husbands have to be willing to let them sign up to own their land too. And one of the ways is that they kind of get the men to agree to this, because giving women money gives them power, and it's not a very popular thing in these cultures. So what they do is they have the husbands guarantee the loans and have them sign their land over, so that the husband and wife both own the land, and it kind of brings the men into it. They benefit from it, but at first there's a lot of resistance. So anyway, these women, they all qualify, and they'll take a little loan out, maybe $15 or $20 will be their first loan. And then if they pay that back, then they can get bigger loans and better loans. And this group actually has what's called a motivator that comes every week. They meet for an hour every week. They have a savings plan. If you join the club, you have to save 8 cents a week. They average $1 a day, and they collect 8 cents every week from all the women in the club. And they collect every week, if a woman has a loan, they collect her loan payment every week. At this meeting, this motivator comes and she teaches. This week that I was there, I took this picture, she's teaching the women, the lesson of the day is this: you should not be tortured by your husband. Here's the reaction of the women. I didn't know what she was saying because it didn't translate it to me until afterwards. But she's telling them, if you're being tortured by your husband, you should come to the group and tell the group, and the group should go to that man and say, instead of torturing your wife, it's not right to be tortured. This is met with, as you can see, what? Disbelief, even laughter. That's the life of a third world woman. This class was being taught 2 weeks ago. You have the right not to be tortured by your husband. This lady had a loan. She had a $300 loan, which she was paying back, and she bought a loom, and she was making tablecloths when we came up. So I asked, could I try it? And I kind of climbed behind the loom, and they have foot pedals. It's all made with bamboo. It's all made homemade, no electricity in this village. And so I pushed my one left foot, and then you have to pull the thing, and it shoots this thing across. And they're doing it click, 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 click really fast. And what do you pull? You know, it was very funny. And we had a great crowd who watched this. And it was a lot of fun. And I said, well, how much do these take? How many of these can you make a day on this loom? I can make 2 a day. What do they cost? I could sell them for $1 each. They cost me 50 cents each. It takes her about 9 hours. I said, wow, they're beautiful. She gave me one. And I said, I said to my host, I really can't take this. And they said, you have to take it, it's a gift. I said, well, could I pay for it? They said, I think that would be very insulting. That's a gift, and you make her very happy to be able to give it to you. I want to read to you out of a book that the director of this organization gave to me. It describes what it's like when a woman takes her first loan. group is formed. Then finally the day would come when a group member would muster her strength and ask for a loan. Usually the first loan is about $12 or $15. She cannot imagine larger amounts than that. It is the largest amount she can possibly think about. When all the preparations are completed and she is about to receive the loan the next morning, will she be excited about it? Far from it. She is totally terrified. She cannot sleep all night. She struggles with herself as to whether she should go through with it or just pass up and say, no, I cannot do this. I'm too scared. What is her fear? Fear of being a failure, fear of being condemned, fear of the unknown, just plain fear of something new. In the morning, she almost decides that she cannot take the pressure. The $15 loan puts too much responsibility on her shoulders. She has severe doubts about whether she will ever be able to repay it. No woman in her entire extended family has ever done this, so her friends come around her to persuade her. Look, we all have to go through it. We will support you. We're here for you just for that. Don't be scared. When she finally receives the $15 loan, she is literally trembling, shaking. The money is burning in her fingers. Tears roll down her eyes because she has never seen so much money in all her life. She never imagined it in her hand. She carries it as she would carry a delicate bird or a rabbit until someone tells her to put it away in a safe place lest anyone steal it. And theft does occur, as our borrowers discovered. She cannot believe such a treasure has been placed in her hands. All her life she has been told she was no good, that being a woman she only brought misery to her family because they had to pay for a dowry which they could not afford. She has heard her mother or her father tell her many times that they should have killed her at birth, aborted her, or starved her. In fact, she has never heard anything good about herself or about her being in the world. To her family she has been nothing but a mouth to feed, another dowry to pay. But today, for the first time in her life, someone has trusted her with all this money. She is stunned. She promises herself she will never let down the one who has trusted her so much. She will struggle to make sure every penny is paid back. And she does it. 97% of the loans given to these women are paid back. Microeconomic loans are one of the greatest ways to liberate women, I think. I want to share a very personal story with you now. And I want to do something tonight. I want to dedicate SowHope to my hero. This is my mom. My mom was, well, she was the nicest person I know. She loved unconditionally, and she loved her kids. And I was thinking about SowHope, and I remembered a story about my mom. When I was a little girl, my dad was not making very good choices. He was carousing many nights during the week, and he was drinking up any profit he was making out of his little business, and our family was not meeting the bills. I can remember the terror in my mom's eyes as she looked down the road and saw the electric company car coming down the road. She would run with panic and begin to fill the bathtub and fill up pitchers of water and tell us to try to slow him down so she could get the water for us. We used to get a lot of calls from bill collectors that would put her into tears. And all of this, my dad seemed to have no problem with. He really was never troubled by this, didn't face it, and we were facing bankruptcy, on the brink of bankruptcy. And my mom had threatened to leave him, and he said, go ahead, take the 5 kids. But because I'm the man, I'll get everything, you'll get nothing. She was working a night job. We didn't have the internet back then, so you could get online and see what her real rights were. She didn't have time to look it up. And she believed him for years. She believed him. And then one day, as we were about to lose everything, and she was at wit's end, she sat in our kitchen, helpless and hopeless. And she did the only thing she could do. She looked heavenward and she cried out in a loud voice. She said, "Oh God, I need help." Then she laid her head down on the table, and the radio was on. And a public service announcement came on over the radio and said, "If you're a woman whose husband is not taking care of you, I'm a lawyer, and you have rights. If your husband has been unfaithful to you and he's not paying the bills, you have a right to everything you own. You, the woman, have a right to everything you own." And then the voice said, "Get a pen and paper." She got a pen and paper, and this voice said, "Take down my name and number. I'm a lawyer, and I fight for the rights of women. You have every right to own all the land that you are signed on with your husband. If you have children, you have rights to all those children, and your husband deserves nothing if you can prove that he's been unfaithful and irresponsible. Here's my name and number." Repeats it twice. Use it if you need it. Everything changed that day. That voice over the radio empowered my mother. When my dad got home that night, she had that piece of paper and she said, "Jim, this madness is going to end. We're selling half the farm and we're paying off the other half. And we're not going to live on the brink of bankruptcy anymore. And you're going to start coming home. And you're going to start becoming your father and a husband to us." My dad said, "Okay." And he did. And they did. And they lived together for 51 and a half years. My mom died 3 years ago. But if my mom had not heard that voice over the radio, I cannot tell you if I'd be standing here today. I don't know what would have happened to our lives. Someone with power reached out and shared their knowledge and power. And that's what we want to do at SowHope. We have resources, we have knowledge, we have power, we have gifts, we have talents, and we can share that. I don't know who that man was on the radio that day, and we never called him. But just sharing his knowledge over the radio saved our lives in many ways. Would you like to be like that? He doesn't even know he did it. He doesn't know how many lives he changed that day. I don't even know if he really exists. I think he might have been an angel, I don't know. But you know, that's really how things get better in the world. People share what they have with other people that need it. My mom needed that day. And thankfully, he was willing to share it. You have gifts and talents, abilities, knowledge, and you can share those too. And all together, where there is despair, we can sow hope. Thank you very much for coming tonight.